No. No. Hell of a start.
No. Restream is like on. I literally just saw the countdown and now got flashing connection signs. It's House Divided on a Thursday, kids. I think we're okay. Sometimes I just wish you guys could see what I see, and then you'd realize, oh, that's why he looked like the town idiot there for a second. Guys, like, comment, subscribe to the page. I'm Jeff. He's Chad. We plan on having a good show today. If Restream will not do what it just did, do us a solid. Go into the Specs chat. We love it when you get interactive with us. We will absolutely take your super chats. And we've got, I think, an interesting conversation, Chad. It's like a mini conversation that you and I have had this week. We talked about it a little bit today, I think, on the Prize Pick show with me and Anwar, Alex, and Jason. It does feel like there's been an interesting sea change of sorts for the Texas football program and fan base coming out of the Vanderbilt game into the bye week. And I'm just curious. The conversation deals with expectations.
Yeah.
And today, what's the consensus of what the level of expectations are for this program the rest of the way? Do they need to make the Final Four for it to be a success? Do they need to win a national championship? Is that where the bar is? Is making the playoffs enough? Is it winning a game or two in the playoffs? It felt like this summer the answer to the question was sky high. It felt like a few weeks ago when Texas was number one and the Georgia game hadn't occurred yet that the expectations were sky high. Felt like then Final Four or bust, and anything less than that would be a disappointment. And I don't know if that's the answer is the same. Maybe it is. Maybe a change in performance hasn't changed the bar. But I've noticed a lot of people this week saying things like, I see this team going 10-2. They'll make the playoffs. And then there's kind of a shoulder shrug about what would happen after that. And it feels like kind of an important question to answer so that we know what we're living inside of when we get to that part of the season. It doesn't seem so clear right now.
There's a great chat we got that kind of, I think, exemplifies where my feelings would be today if I was a fan. First off, I want everybody to understand y'all can stop it with the I hate Halloween stuff because, Catch, I'm wearing the scariest shirt I own today.
That's the stuff of nightmares. Stop it.
Don't say I don't get into the terrifying on Halloween because that's the scariest image I could show you today. But in terms of this chat, Catch,
you could have had Dak on a t-shirt, and that might have made me.
That would have been scarier.
Even scary. Or Jerry.
Or maybe a lineup of all the guys they've gotten past their prime just coming at you like Frankenstein, Dalvin Cook, and all the old. Yes, look, it's what's left of that guy. So text guy, well, if they make it to the playoffs, they better win one game or it would be disappointing. Catch, this is where I was to start. My expectation for Texas, and again, I'm the third-party observer, so it's not like it's a fan's expectation, but I have always said the same thing. Get to the playoff and then live up to your seed. And my assumption is that seed would not be 9, 10, 11, or 12. So the minimum was you're going to host a playoff game, and you need to live up to whatever that seeding is. There hasn't been a moment of this season where I've put a like a Final Four or bust on this team or anything higher than that. So my expectation for them is still sitting in the same spot. Get into that playoff and then live up to wherever the committee seeds you. I think that to me would hit the expectation level. But again, it's not my heart and soul, and I'm not a fan like a lot of
were higher than that internally. We know that. We made a poll. A couple thousand people responded to it.
Right. But they agreed with me. They said get to the playoff and win a game.
Well, no.
Right?
So 85% said that that was the minimum bar.
Okay.
But a huge chunk of that 85% was that they needed to get to the Final Four.
Okay.
I forget exactly the way that it was worded, whether it was win 2 games, but national semifinalist, because that's what they did a year ago. So there were a lot of people that said, we did that a year ago. That should be the minimum bar. And that was more than 50% of those that were polled. There was another chunk that was in line with you, and you combined those two together, and it was like 85.8%.
Okay. So when you read
make the playoffs and win at least a game.
Gotcha. When you read this one from Burnt Orange Chris, finals or bust, no excuse when almost your entire roster is returning. Is Chris saying like the championship game? When you read that?
Yes.
That's what he means by finals.
But the entire roster didn't return.
Yeah.
So who's he talking about?
Right. That's silly, Chris. To me, that's just silliness. This is a real system. It's the first year of real college football. You have got to cleanse your mind of all the pageant bullshit that you've been living with. This is the first real version. You have to win 4 games inside of a real playoff system.
Or 3.
It could, right. Or 3. Right. 3, at least 3, if not 4, depending on if you have a bye. We've never seen it before. How can we possibly put that level of expectation on any team? To me, Catch, they're in a pack of teams that are towards the top. They're at 6 this week. That feels about right. They're in a group of about 8 teams that I think are really dangerous and maybe could strike towards the top. But putting an expectation on them to have to get to Atlanta, not SEC Atlanta, but championship game Atlanta, I think that's too much.
Well, look, and I'm just saying, I don't know what the right answer is. Because I think championship or bust a couple of weeks ago when you're number 1 in the country and undefeated and looking like you're really buzzsawing through teams. You know, I would at least, that might be too high, but I could understand why that would exist. If you're a 1 seed in the NCAA basketball tournament and you don't make the Final Four, it feels like you failed.
Yes,
it's harsh.
Agreed.
It's harsh.
Yeah, it is.
It's mean, so harsh.
That's where I talk about the seeding. Like living up to the seed, I think is going to matter to, if I was just your, whoever my college football team would be, that is something I would watch each year. If my team ends up crawling in at 10, I'm not going to put an expectation of they have to go to the Final Four. Or I think
but if you're Ohio State or you're Georgia and you come in at 10, like Alabama's in an interesting place. They've got 2 losses.
Right.
If they have effed around and found out, they can't lose another game. It really does look like this isn't the year to try to get in at 9-3, because you're going to have an Indiana that probably sitting there at 11. There are going to be a couple of teams that are in power conferences that end up with really good records, and it might mess up a 9-3, especially in a year where the SEC doesn't feel like it has a bunch of teams that are going to finish with 10-2 or 9-3 records, where the resume is like, can't leave them out. I mean, everybody, it's kind of like, believe me, I do these power polls completely meaningless, but I do it every week. And I'm looking at the middle class of the SEC, and it's just like, I don't really like any of them.
Yeah, right. It's like, what am I looking at?
So I don't know. Texas is a really unique team. They made the playoff a year ago. Really, Michigan's out, so they're really only 3 teams, and Washington's not in. So it's almost right. Alabama and Texas are the only 2 teams from a year ago that have realistic playoff opportunities that would look at, we went last year and we want to make it back this year. Well, Michigan, completely different team. Washington, completely different team, new coach. Alabama, completely different team, new coach. So the only team in that returning 4 really that you would say, if they don't make the playoffs and make a run, there'll be some disappointment that they didn't build on what they did. I think it would be Texas. We know what the narratives have been all the way through the offseason. We know what they were when the season started, what they look like after they beat Michigan. I'm only wondering, in the last 2 weeks, has the official bar for which we will define how successful this season will be, and I know we've got some super chats, and we'll get to them in just a second. Has it changed? Are we at a point where, because I think if you'd said 2 weeks ago, make the playoffs and win a game, I think if you polled 100 Texas football fans, they would have said, that feels like the minimum.
Yeah, it kind of depends on when you ask them, right? To me, it would depend on when you ask. If you ask right before they kick with Georgia, I think they get to have an attitude. After that game's over,
I'm not a big believer in the bar gets to be moved.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in this was the bar before the season started.
Right.
Did they hit that? Now, look, if you get into a season, it's like, well, our starting quarterback missed 9 games. And, I think we all understand that there's circumstances that occur or could occur that would make, if Florida State went into last season and said it's playoffs or bust, and then their season unfolded the way that it did, you'd understand why they'd feel like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to even answer what happens when you lose your starting quarterback and everybody just believes that you don't belong. And then it turns out they were right. I don't know. So I feel like before the season, it really felt like this team had to get back to the Final Four and then do a little something when they're there. Making it to the true quarterfinals, not wild card weekend. I'm sorry.
I was waiting.
Opening round of the weekend.
Ooh, that's not bad. I think we're gonna still land on mine, but that's okay. You'll get there.
First
I'm
round.
waiting. I'm waiting. As soon as you tell me something I like better than first round, I'm there with you.
Quarterfinals plus.
Dude, we got too many pluses right now. ESPN plus, Apple plus. No, I don't need another
Well,
plus.
that's why I thought I said it, because it's the hip thing.
No more plus. I can't have another plus.
Quarterfinals plus I could live with.
Okay.
It's not the quarterfinals, it's the quarterfinals plus.
Okay.
So I feel like getting to the playoffs and winning a game is a very generic from 30,000 feet up. That's going to be the new bar every year, just to keep it safe. There will be years where you want, like, we need to win a national championship, but I feel like, it used to be, I would say, if you're Texas, the only thing that makes for a successful season is winning a conference championship and or winning a major bowl game. If you do one of those two things, then you get to call the season a success. Anything less than that, by the standards that Texas likes to hold itself to, it doesn't count as a successful season. Now that we have a playoff, and now that you're in a super SEC where, boy, it's hard to just say that winning the conference, that's really hard to do. And now it's about making the playoffs. So how much success do you have to have? I think winning a game and being a true quarterfinalist should be the minimum bar for basically everybody. And if Georgia wants to say, no, it's got to be the Final Four or national championship or bust, okay, I guess you're Georgia. You could do that. But I think for 97% of the programs in the country, and that's too high because they can't all claim that. I think for the big boys, this is it. I just don't know specifically with Texas if this is it.
All right, let's start some super chats here. A couple of you have already thrown stuff in. We'll start with James, $4.99. Love the show. Appreciate y'all. Even when Catch scoffs at my super chat takes, LOL. Sometimes, James, that's what it's about. Buy or sell, UT baseball wins a title before football.
I'm sorry I scoff.
No, you're not. You're really sorry to scoff. Scoffing's fine.
Well, he says love the show even when. That's like a but.
Right. He loves it. But then he added the LOL. I think the LOL is proper there.
Oh, no, exactly.
Yeah, that was perfect. That tells you exactly what James thinks. James doesn't want you to fake it. James doesn't want you to read every super chat and go, James, you're brilliant. I think James wants the truth, and he's glad that you give it to him. That's how I read it.
I'm just saying I apologize for occasionally scoffing.
If you didn't scoff, I wouldn't know who you were. I would think somebody abducted you on Halloween. We need you to scoff.
The aliens have taken over my body. Baseball wins a title before football.
Speaking of both these sports now, one sport became a lot harder to win a title. The other one was already damn hard.
I'm going to sell.
Okay.
But, you know, it's a 51-49.
I think
they're both going to be really hard.
Just by the sport, James, I would sell that as well because you got 12 teams fighting for it if you get in. Football's a little more of a determining sport in terms of if you have the better roster and better plan and all that stuff, it usually can work out for you. Whereas in baseball, I got to get in that 64 team bracket and we're playing a cookie game like baseball. I'm going to sell.
I mean, it's, you know, the Phillies were the best team in Major League Baseball for most of the season. And then they ended up losing home field to the Dodgers. And then in a 5-game series, they get eliminated by the Mets. And it's the Yankees. The Yankees just had their best season in 15 years. And then they lose in 5 games to the Dodgers and play like little leaguers in game 5.
I mean, did you watch last night? Like, as happy as I was, because I hate the Yankees, there's no better example of how weird baseball is. Like, that 5th inning last night was so cruel. So cruel. It's like, Yankees fans, if a guy's going to drop a routine fly ball that's going to start the inning of your nightmares, who's the last guy that you'd get? Oh, Judge. Oh, really? Aaron Judge? Here it comes. Like, it's the weirdest sport on earth. So that's why I would lean towards football.
It is.
It's so goofy.
It's the thing I hate about baseball because I've been in a position where you think, best team should win this.
It ain't fair, man.
And then you're like, you end up saying, it's not fair. What happened to the best team? And when do we ever say that in sports? It's the only sport where we say things like, kind of unfair what happened to the best team in the sport.
Yeah, but they play these big long series. By the end of it, it's like, well, okay, like, it is what it is.
Never in the NFL does anybody ever say, you know, kind of feels like that 1 seed, kind of unfair what they were asked to do. You lose over 60 minutes, and it's just those are the consequences.
Yep.
Baseball is it's just a completely different animal, and the thing is, every night in baseball, you almost always see something that you've never seen before. It's like, oh, I couldn't have accounted for that going into the game.
Exactly. It's crazy.
What do you mean 2 guys are going to try to rip the ball out of a glove? You know?
Yeah, right? What do you mean in the biggest moment of a World Series game, both the pitcher and the first baseman will do the wrong thing at the exact same time? And a guy gets to first and a run comes home and then the inning from hell continues.
Yeah, you're like, how many times has that happened this year? None? Okay. Never. It's going to happen in the most important game of the year. It's just –
yeah.
So I think football, because of what Chad's talking about, you could literally be the 27 Yankees. And you know the thing about the 27 Yankees, they got to go straight to the World Series.
Oh, yeah, right. That's the other thing.
Whenever you see Babe Ruth's postseason statistics – say, oh, well, yeah, but 275 of his games were in the World Series. It was like, well, yeah, because he didn't go through a wild card and a division and a conference. And baseball and college baseball has that, right? You have to play a regional, then a super regional, and then you get into that kooky 2-and-Q system.
Yeah, in fact, there's even less room for error than in Major League Baseball, because at least Major League Baseball teams get to a moment where the Yankees can say, well, we lost 4 out of 7. They were going to give us 7 opportunities if we needed it. They never give you that in college baseball. They're only giving you little pockets of, no, you got to win 2 out of these 3. But yeah, we're really good. We don't care. Just win 2 out of these 3 or you're done.
And then even when you get to the final, it's still 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
And so then there's even less of a margin of error for something. Think about how Texas baseball season ended a couple of years ago at Stanford.
Oh, yeah. Because of lights?
Yes. Because of lights.
Lights and where you play. That's the other thing. It's a sport where every single place is different. All of them. Every one of them.
Well, and so the way we ended up looking at that season, well, Texas baseball underachieved. It wasn't a good season. Well, why not? Well, because ultimately lights, There's no fair in baseball, where in football and other sports, it does feel more fair. Rarely do I feel like, oh, well, the team that ended up winning the big thing didn't deserve it. College baseball is it may be the most cruel of all of the sports because of the baseball part of it. It's just, by definition, batshit crazy.
Yeah, thank you for that super chat. We went way into that one. Oscar, says, I love that Freddie Freeman got to win the World Series. Remember, he already won one, Oscar. Won one with the Braves, and this would be his second.
I've never liked Freddie Freeman, and I feel bad because it sounds like a good human being, but F him. He played on the Braves forever, so I just don't like him.
You're a Phillies fan. You're programmed to hate certain things. I get it. Totally get that.
Especially good players on the Braves.
Especially good players that play in Atlanta. Like, that's how you're programmed. I get it. Oscar with $9.99. Look, man, Texas hasn't looked great the last few weeks. Neither did Georgia early on or Oregon early on. Ohio State almost lost to Nebraska. Everyone needs to take a damn breath. And I think that's this emoji. That one right there.
But what do we need to take a damn breath about?
I don't know. Maybe having the expectations talk at this point. Oscar's a little nervous about that. Week. Yeah.
And we're not even saying the expectations have changed.
Right.
We're asking the question about, have they? So I don't know what we need to take a breath about.
Well, I don't know. Oscar, again, my expectations would be about the same as they were. And in terms of taking a breath, here's what I would say to Oscar. The one thing that I think is more true catch in this season than any other season we've watched, again, because it's real now, is you just have to be careful about your hyperbole. You have to be so careful when I always say be careful when you're emphatic, but that's both sides of it. Be careful when you go, this team can't be touched, but also be careful when you go, they're garbage. Yeah. Dumpster fire. Ooh, dumpster fire. That's fun to say. They're a dumpster fire. Really? Are they that terrible? Like, as the season goes on, I think we all have to calm ourselves and go towards the middle of all those discussions and realize that we may not be watching like, oh my God, this is the greatest team that's ever lived. And you also may, oh, that's it. They're terrible. They're garbage. Kentucky's awful. They're terrible. Hot garbage. You sure? You're sure? Okay. So I think that's part of it too.
I don't think there's any hot garbage in the SEC. I mean, look, I think for the last 8 weeks, Mississippi State has never gained more. They've not gained anything other than a last place vote. And by every single person on the Orange Blood staff for the last 8 weeks, they've been 16th every time. But they gave Georgia a battle. They gave Texas a battle. They may have gotten steamrolled a week ago, but we know that they can be competitive.
Right. They gave the Aggies a battle. If they had just caught the other 2 balls Connor Wigman threw them, they really might have given the Aggies something.
No, they're competitive. And Auburn can be competitive. Oklahoma is in that 14th or 13th best team in the league, but they got a really good defense. And that's what you would say about Kentucky as well. Whatever the last 4 games are for the Longhorns, and I still have them going 11-1. That was my prediction in the preseason, although I will admit that the game that they lost, I thought they would beat Georgia. I thought one of these road games would be the thing that trips them up. So it is a possibility. Chad, I figured out through some pretty basic math. We handicapped what we thought in the Prize Pick show, what we thought the winning percentage for each of the games would look like. Mm-hmm. So both Florida and Kentucky were above 90%. But Arkansas was I think we did 66.67%. And I think A&M, we went 55-45 for Texas versus A&M. We added it all up together. And the math said that there's less than a 30% chance, if you look at the 4 games in succession, that Texas would win them all. I think I find myself wondering if they go 11-1. This is a very old system, non-12 team playoff question to ask. If you go 11-1, but lose in the first round of the semifinals plus. Or you can even frame this a couple of different ways. Ultimately, I'm asking, if you go 11-1, but you beat the Aggies and you beat the Sooners and you did beat Michigan and you beat Arkansas, right? So you beat all of your rivals.
So what happens then what happens in Atlanta?
You lose.
Okay, lose the title game. So then you're going to have to do the extra game, and then you win a game in the playoff?
No, that's what I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
Would you rather lose to A&M, get to the semifinals or the true quarterfinals or something like that?
Oh, I think that's an easy one. I would think if I'm a Texas fan, you want to go as far as you can in the playoff, period.
At the price of losing to the Aggies?
Yeah, because I get that rivalries are rivalries, but the beauty of a real system will remind us of the NFL. Is it important to you if you're a Cowboys fan that you beat Washington and Philly and the Giants? Yeah, obviously. But would you trade that for like advancing in the playoffs? Hell no. No, you want to advance in the playoffs. That's how I would look at it.
But what if advancing to the playoffs just means winning a wild card game?
Okay, but you're still advancing in the playoffs. That's the ultimate goal. Okay. That's and maybe a Texas fan with 11-1, beat the Aggies, lose in Atlanta, and then lose. That means you're losing at home theoretically in a playoff game. That's not even close to it.
I'm not making I'm asking.
That's not enough. I'm telling you that if I was a fan, that wouldn't. Yeah, if I was a fan, that would not be acceptable. Y'all tell me if I'm crazy. But then you know what? One of the first ones I saw was this. It said beat Aggies. Okay.
Well, let me ask it from an A&M perspective.
Oscar says it's that important.
You think Aggie fans would be like, we would concede beating Texas if it meant we won a round in the playoffs and went to the true quarterfinals?
I think most Aggies would tell you it's beat Texas at all costs. Yeah.
Look, it's the first time we've ever been in this system. And the thing that's kind of exciting about it is the newness. It's we can philosophically have a conversation about the way we think they're going to feel about all of this.
Yeah. Now there's another way to look at it. Oscar's way of looking at it is something, again, this is not where my mindset would be. In the moment, I may take it, but if you're guaranteeing me no final appearance, then yeah, I'd take the Aggies.
I think there are people that think like that, Chad.
Now, see that, and Oscar's setting up a different version than what you just said. Oscar's saying if the championship game is not involved, he'll take the Aggies. He'll take beating the Aggies because he's not going to get to a championship game. But if you could tell him a championship game happens, then he's willing to swap it.
Well, because that's what happened with Texas last year in Oklahoma.
Right. Correct.
Texas lost to Oklahoma, but it didn't impact them at all in winning a Big 12 championship or getting to the playoffs. So when you look at last season,
I love fans that do this. I'd rather lose every other game and beat OU and A&M. No, you wouldn't, David. Not really. I mean, I like when you say that stuff. Fans will say that, right? I'll go one and whatever if it's beating that team. Come on. Stop it. I can't do that as a Cowboys fan. I don't care if Cowboys win 2 games a year as long as they beat the Eagles twice. Right. Because I want to live through 2 and 15 seasons. Come on.
What? You beat the Eagles twice.
I'll beat the Eagles twice. Did y'all see those Eagles games? What up? Like, okay, calm down, please. I love it, though. I love the excitement of it. And yes, to the chatter that says, come on, Chad, it's a bye week. This is kind of what we do. And the hyperbole is part of it. Yes, because you are the hyperbolic fans, and thank God, because otherwise we might have to get real jobs. So thank you.
But I don't think, again, we're getting a little lost in the weeds, and that's okay. The overall conversation, the theme of it more than anything else, is I'm just checking the temperature of the room. Has ultimately what we went into this season and spent most of the season thinking this is what they have to do, or it will be has it all changed in 8 quarters because Texas today doesn't look like they'd be a top 4 seed, and now,
right?
I don't know.
I guess my question back to you're the perfect person to kind of bounce it back on. If you're telling me that what you do is you set the bar, you set that spot, and it never moves for you, no matter what happens.
No, I think generally speaking, it never moves. But
Right.
there are instances where you can make an alteration based on extreme circumstances.
Okay. So then for you, is it still in the same spot, or have you needed to alter?
I think it's in the same spot, which will require some nuance if it occurs.
Okay.
I think they still have to make the Final Four, or this will have been a disappointing season.
Okay.
Now, that's based on the highest of expectations. It's like when a Kentucky basketball fan thumbs its nose at making the Elite Eight, right? I think in the context of the sport, making the playoffs and getting to the quarterfinals and then getting bumped out by a higher seed, I think 90% of the people you would ask would say that's a pretty badass season. They were really good. I think, by the highest of bars, I think it would be a disappointment. And I think when you stack those up, the thing about those types of seasons, Chad, is you need them to be a one-off. You need to be able to follow those up with seasons where there's more clarity. Because it sounds like the kind of season that Mac used to have a lot. Right? Hey, 10 plus wins. Who doesn't want 10 plus wins? And it's like, got to a bowl game, won the bowl game, you're 11-2, you finished 5th in the country or 6th in the country. And it's hard to look at that and say it's a failure. And most of the country wouldn't. But there are exceptions to the rule where 6th in the country doesn't get you a conference championship. And as recent as a year ago, it doesn't get you to the playoffs. It doesn't guarantee you, you know what I mean? It's a fairly empty circumstance without the little titles that we like to put on it. So I don't know. I'm in this first year of the playoff. Texas going 10-2 2 years ago in the middle of an 8-5 season when we knew that the SEC was looming. 10-2 and making the playoffs, period, in the first year of the SEC would have been viewed as a wildly successful accomplishment.
Yep.
Just 16 months ago. What do you mean? Hell, 16 months ago, 13 months ago. 13 months ago, the idea that this season Texas would go 10-2 and make the playoffs and say nothing else. Don't tell me who they lost to. Don't tell me if they beat A&M or anything. They went 10-2 and made the playoffs? Oh, Steve Sarkisian really has this thing going in the right direction. Now we're in a place where I think that kind of season would be judged harshly. 10-2 and not winning in the playoffs is all about perspective. And I wonder what the perspective would be if it occurs, because there are more and more people who are looking at the remaining 4 games, Chad, and are thinking to themselves, they could go 10-2. And if they go 10-2, do they even have if they lose to A&M, it's possible that they would be 10-2 without a win over a current ranked team. Yeah, Michigan was 10th when they beat them. Yes, Vandy was 25th when they beat them. But it's possible that they could be a 2-loss team, and their 2 losses would be to the 2 highest ranked teams on their schedule at the beginning of December when all of this will matter. So, it's possible that Texas could go 10-2 and finish 9 through 12. It may not be likely, but it's certainly possible that could happen. And I think Texas fans would have a hard time saying, whoa, guys. 18 months ago, they will not want to hear that.
No, they won't. You're right about that. We got a couple super chats that we will get to. We also have A little bit of good news and a very little bit of bad news, and then mostly good news today. Let me give you the little bit of bad news before we move on. The bad news is, of all the great things about a Thursday show, this is not going to be a part of our Thursday show. It's not. I wish it was. In fact, nobody in the world loves to call me out on my old man curmudgeonliness, if that's a word, more than Brian Jones. So I was hoping Brian would come on dressed like this, or dressed like, I don't know what, in his full uniform with a 60 jersey on or something. But Brian is not with us. When Aaron Judge dropped that baseball, it set in motion a course of events that now means Brian can't be on. He is a heartbroken Yankees fan. His travel schedule changed, and he cannot be with us today.
What I love about that is, there has to be a better image than that one that doesn't make him look like he's drunk.
Right. Plus, look what game he's talking about. That's the extra great detail, that he is speaking about A&M South Carolina at that moment.
I want to ask him, the thing is, that's the kind of thing that can keep a guy from getting laid for the rest of his life.
Oh my God. That I don't think
that could be the defining moment of some people's lives. And yet I think Brian's going to be okay. He's going to get out of that successfully.
He'll be fine. Fine. That's a confident man that's sitting on he's sitting there as a confident man. He's not worried about any of that, especially after a couple divorces. He's fine. He is fine. He's doing good. So no Brian Jones today, but there is good news. You got us, you got this conversation going on, and I've got some ideas for you on what to do on your bye-week weekend. Like drink Deep Eddy vodka. Head on out to the Deep Eddy vodka tasting room. They are waiting on you. All these cool cocktails, or maybe you want to do a tasting. Which was the first of the 8 flavors that they started making? Kind of surprised me to find out. What's the most popular selling flavor of their vodka? You go find that out. That one kind of surprised me too. But all these cocktails are great. The barbecue's awesome. Crimson Creek Smokehouse, it's right there on site. It's real convenient once you get in there to get the food and the drink together and just have yourself a good time. Make sure you do it responsibly, but get on out there. You see the hours. Thursdays 12 to 7, Friday and Saturday 11 to 7, Sunday 12 to 5. The Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. Go out there and check them out. All right, we did get a super chat in that we haven't gotten. Actually, 2 of them. Let's grab Jay's first. $5. Do you know if we have allowed more sacks to this point in the season than we did last year? Also, is this O-line better than last year?
Yes, it is. I don't know the exact sack numbers, though.
Yeah,
I don't know what Texas had 8. I could look it up, but I couldn't do it while we're on the air. But probably pretty close. And I think that the Georgia game distorts the numbers to some degree, but they're probably pretty close.
Yeah, my eyes would tell me that they are better, Catch. I would agree with you. It's just the sloppiness is killing them. I mean, you got to get rid of that stuff.
Well, in the last 2 games, their busts have been way more impactful. It's one thing for a guy to have a bad rep, and sometimes you never notice. It's like, oh, did you notice that Jake Majors got thrown to the ground there? Well, no. Well, why didn't you? Well, because they still gained 18 yards on that play, so I just didn't notice.
Yeah.
Their bad plays are leading to bad plays. And I think and Cam Williams is probably the best example. Alex did his grades and the deep dig over on Orange Bloods, and his overall grade was pretty good. Certainly by historical measures, it was really good. It was like, well, how could he have that good of a game when we know the negatives? And it's like, well, because on the plays where he was bad. But on the rest of the plays, he was pretty exceptional. And so then it's, well, what do you do with a right tackle who 4 out of 5 plays is turning out an NFL level performance? But on that 5th play, it's a play that looks bad, but also leads to, and 4 out of 5 is probably not, it's probably more like 9 out of 10 or 14 out of 15. You think about the total number of snaps they've had, you can probably limit the amount of bad plays to 5. But if something really bad happens on the 5, it will stick out. And I think that's what happened. I think Cam Williams played really well last week, except for the very few plays that everybody remembers. And, it goes that way sometimes. You strike out in a baseball game 4 times, but you hit a double in the first inning. People are probably going to talk about those 4 strikeouts more than they remember the double, even though, in theory, an extra base hit every game is probably a good thing. So, it's just one of those things.
Jay, we appreciate the super chat. We also had a smaller super chat from Justin, $2. DeBoer is the Charlie Strong of Alabama. LOL. Damn, Justin. Whoa. Good. It's a little extreme, isn't it?
Hey, but you know what? Hey, Justin, I'm going to give you a payoff on your Alabama $2 super chat, because I want to ask Chad this question.
All right.
Alabama right now is 8-2. No, I'm sorry, 6-2, right? Yeah, they're 6-2.
Yeah.
Their last 4 games were number 2 Georgia, at Vanderbilt, at number 11 Tennessee, and then against number 21 Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
They're off this week. Then their final 4 games are at LSU,
right?
Mercer at home.
Oh, it's a tough one.
At Oklahoma, at home against Auburn in the Iron Bowl.
My gut right now says they win them all.
I do too. I
don't trust LSU as far as I can throw them.
Your gut right now says they go 10-2.
They could play that game in the Mike the Tiger enclosure, and I still might pick Bama to win the game.
Because I think the cool thing about, and look, we need a lived experience to really appreciate this more. But Alabama feels like they're out of the SEC title race, and it's not yet November, right? I mean, right now, nobody's talking about the scenarios where Alabama gets in. There are still too many teams that could finish with no losses or 1 loss.
Right. You're going to need a couple more teams to eat a second loss.
So in reality, under normal circumstances, Alabama at LSU in November, when neither team looks like they're destined or the game has SEC championship implications, that game feels like a dud. But that game on the 9th is a playoff elimination game.
Right. It's a massive game, Catch. Just like in a way, Ole Miss and Arkansas is massive this week because the loser will eat their 3rd conference loss, and it puts them down in a different category. The one you're talking about, if Bama gets that win, everybody kind of forgot about LSU when A&M beat them. That was just their first loss. So if they can get the win and stay in that category, it's obviously huge. But if Bama gets that win, they will start to try to draw some teams back to them. And if you can start hanging second conference losses, then my job of looking up all these tie-breaking scenarios gets really complicated.
Well, so bear with me, okay? So let's look at LSU's last 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
Home against Bama. Then they're at Florida.
Right.
Home against Vanderbilt. Home against Oklahoma.
Vandy can absolutely beat them, even though it's in Baton Rouge.
I mean, it could.
I think they'll lose. I think they might lose 2. I think they definitely lose to Bama.
At home, you think they definitely lose to Bama?
I'm picking Bama to win that game right now. Yeah,
I am too. But I wouldn't say they're definitely. My point is,
obviously, you got to play the game, but Bama.
It's
at least
in the swamp at night.
It is in the. Well, you said
not the swamp.
Death Valley. Yeah,
I just think of LSU as a swamp.
Right. Yeah. Tiger Stadium at night. It's crazy. I get it. I'm going to pick the more sound football team.
Okay, but this is my point. Could at Florida be tricky for LSU? Yes.
Yes, because they're sloppy.
Could Vanderbilt be at home be tricky for LSU? Sure.
Absolutely, because they're sloppy. Vandy may hold the ball 45 minutes.
And look, Oklahoma may go into that game, season finale. They may need that to be bowl eligible.
Oh, you could beat them too because they're sloppy.
But They'll be favored to win all 3 games, and they certainly could.
Yeah.
It means, and we're not thinking about it like this yet because we've never done this before, but I'm telling you, Alabama and LSU next weekend, that is a playoff game. The loser is out. The winner would appear to have the road set for them to be in the playoffs. And for both of those teams who are in the teens right now in the rankings, their whole season is on the line next week in a game where we would never have said that previously. And the thing that excites me about the playoffs is we're going to start getting games like that, 14 versus 12. And it's like, hey, man, if you want to be in the play, we do this in the NFL when we get to the final 2 or 3 games of the season. And it's like, well, what does a team have to do to make the playoffs? Well, they got to win this weekend or they're probably out. And we say, this is a playoff game before the playoffs. And sometimes you get to the playoffs and teams play well in the playoffs because they kind of catch fire needing to play regular season games like their playoff games. I'm rambling, but I'm telling you that LSU and Alabama next week is a playoff game to get into the playoff game. And the loser will look back at that game, I think, in the offseason and say, now it changes if they lose, any of those teams lose one of those other last 3 games. But if you then went out and you go 9-3, you're going to look back at that last loss and go, that was the one we needed to win. I can't wait to watch that game because.
So for the record, you think Bama with 3 losses, there is no way they're finding their way into the playoffs?
Not no way, but look, Indiana's a problem. It looks like they're going to go 11-1. Have you seen their schedule?
I have not. I haven't looked at it, but
real quick. Let me just pull that up.
I mean, there's 36 Big Ten teams, so like those schedules get wild.
I know, but they're in a position.
And remember, Catch, as long as they don't go to if they don't win the conference title, they're only dangerous if the committee tells us they're dangerous.
So look, they're 8-0. I still don't believe they trailed in a game this season.
I think that is true. I think they go to Ohio State later on. I like that one.
I know. So look,
yeah,
at Michigan State, that's this weekend.
Yeah.
Then they're at home against Michigan.
Right.
Then they're at Ohio State. And then they close the season at Purdue.
Right. Big rival to end. Yeah.
It feels like a 3-1 finish.
It does.
And
Maybe
so you're talking
4-0.
about an Indiana team. And you know what Indiana's best – Indiana has played no ranked teams.
Okay.
Their best win, I don't know, Nebraska at home, 56-7, or they beat Washington last week by 2 times. They've not beat a ranked team. They've not played a ranked team.
Right.
And they may only play 1 all season, but if they go 11-1, they're going to be in.
And that's what you're doing right now is interesting to me because of all the comparisons we could make with college football and the NFL, you're discussing the key difference. The key difference moving forward is there's still a little pageant to this thing.
Well, it has to be.
There's still a little squeakiness of how you got to get in because there's a committee, and then you got to figure out, like, if I'm Indiana, you're right. You could end up with a situation where if you go to that Big Ten title game and you don't win it, there's no guarantees of where you end up.
Could go. The question is, I think if Alabama's 10-2 and Indiana's 11-1, I think that's a battle that an Alabama would win every time.
Probably.
If the resume is so full of holes like Indiana's is. But the conversation is, could a 3-loss team get in this year? And I think this might not be the year where that's because I do think there's going to be an 11-1 Indiana that just feels like that shouldn't be there. That feels faulty, and yet an 11-1 team from the Big Ten is going to get in. And I think that in a year where a 3-loss team has a chance of getting in, it probably can't have even one of those. It needs all of the fluky things to kind of fall by the wayside.
Yeah, and SB, we are with you. Love the 12 team. It is going to be so fun. Cats, just to put numbers behind what you said, every week I count up the ranked matchups in college football and the winning matchups in the NFL. This week, it's exactly mirrored on both sides. There are 2 ranked matchups in college football. There are 2 winning matchups in the NFL. But in both, I counted 10 games that have playoff implications. 10 of them.
That's what is what I've been talking about for a year plus. It's there, and you know what? There'll be an occasional like 9:45 in the where we would normally go. Unless you're playing prize picks.
Yeah.
Sometimes those late games just don't matter.
Well, okay.
But now they do. They really do.
Yeah. Think about 2 games you wouldn't have cared about, Catch. In the ACC, Louisville goes to Clemson. Clemson's got to handle their business and stay undefeated. When Pitt plays SMU, classic ACC, right? Pitt at SMU. Oh,
That's the game the grandfathers talk about.
But here's the schedule thing on that, Catch. Everybody's already said Clemson doesn't play Miami. Clemson does go to Pitt later in the season. SMU doesn't play either of those teams. SMU doesn't play Clemson, and SMU doesn't play Pitt. SMU doesn't play Miami. My bad. They don't play Clemson or Miami, if I'm not mistaken. So this game is like, if you'd have told me there's an SMU game at all that I'm supposed to care about, I'd say you were crazy. The loser of that game has a conference loss. The winner stays undefeated. There's just so many. And remember, when you're battling for these conferences, Clemson or SMU or Iowa State or BYU could very well get a bye in this playoff system.
Hey, look at SMU. SMU's at home against Pitt. I don't even know what the spread is for that game. Do you know what their schedule is the rest of the way? No way. Of course you don't.
SMU or Pitt?
Do you have SMU's schedule memorized?
No. The only thing I know is I'm pretty sure it doesn't include Clemson or Miami.
Boston College at home, at UVA, Cal at home.
There you go.
They could they win this weekend because they're 20th now. This is exactly the thing this is the perfect example, Chad. They're 20th now. So they're on nobody's real radar for the playoffs. When the rankings get announced next week, SMU will be on the list assuming that if they were to win this weekend, they'd be somewhere 15th through 25th, right?
Right.
But it's what we think they would do the rest of the year. And suddenly you're watching SMU at UVA because it might be the difference between Oklahoma in a normal year, Oklahoma or somebody, like a big brand team is living and dying by they need this pesky little potential 11-1 SMU team to lose. But the other cool thing about that is SMU's got to play games with real pressure. All of these teams do. It changes the regular season because once we get to this point in the year, every team will think they have a hope, but the hope will be conditional based on got to do this, this, and this. And with no margin of error, it means that the pressure in these games is immense. And that's when watching football is at its best, when there is real jeopardy in the outcomes of winning and losing. If losing a game causes your season ultimately to be a waste, but winning it throws it into the conversation of this is what we're playing for. That's when sports are at their best. And moving it from 4 to 12 allows for there's 35 teams in college football right now that win their final 4 games, they got a chance to be in the mix for the 11, 12-ish kind of spot. And I'm going to be watching. I should be a good dad this weekend and a good husband, and I'm not going to be. On Saturday, I'm going to have the remote control. I'm going to have YouTube TV pulled up. I'll have 4 games on all at once, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Yep. You give college football about 100 years or so, and man, they can get it right, can't they? More of that conversation coming. We have no super chats in the queue right now. So if you want to throw us a super chat, it will go right to the top of the list. We got buy or sell coming. We got the 1 o'clock hour coming, which always gets strange. Unfortunately, no Brian Jones today. He's traveling today, getting ready for the big weekend. By the way, their game is Oregon-Michigan. Speaking of a game that's got a lot of playoff implications, can number 1 Oregon go on the road to Michigan and handle their business and keep that train rolling? That is the 2:30 CBS game with Brian and the crew this week.
That game should be so much fun, and I'll be watching, but yeah, come on, Michigan.
Yeah, might be a game early, but Oregon hopes it's definitely not a game late. Let me thank another one of our great partners here, and it is Sinus and Snoring Specialist. Hope you slept well last night. If you're not sleeping well, you know. Sometimes only you know what you're going through. This is one of those things you got to take that step. Other people can tell you, but you have to want to do it. I told my wife for a long time she needed to go to Sinus and Snoring Specialist. She kept putting it off. She kept, oh, no, it's not that bad. It's not this. It's not that. And I kept telling her about that sound when she was snoring. I'm like, come on, honey, you got to get this done. You got to take care of it. Just like she told me before I went in there, but you got to want to do it. If it's time to get rid of your allergies for good, if it's time to get rid of your sleep apnea and look at that snoring issue and really figure out what's going on, this is the place that can help you. They help me. Check them out. They're right there at Parmer and Mopac. If you're in the Austin area, you know right where that is. You can call them at 601-0303. If you're online, it's sinussnoringent.com. It's also at sinussnoringent on Twitter if you want to hit them that way. And let them know that you heard about it on Orange Bloods Live. We would appreciate it. Sinus and Snoring Specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. All right. A lot of good stuff in the chat, but like I said, I don't see super chats right now. I am just double checking. We had some regular chats in that we can react to a little bit here. How about this one? Catch. Vivek says, Catch, are you still thinking we beat A&M now?
I'm still going with Texas to finish 11-1, but I think the A&M game will be a last 5 minutes of the game kind of a game. So I'm still picking Texas to win that game. If you made me put a prediction in today, I would pick Texas to win the game. I think this Texas defense would truly suffocate much of the A&M offense. But I do think it's a game that there could be some weird, funky plays in it. I think it's a dogfight. I think today I picked Texas to win the dogfight, but I'm not going to flinch at all if someone suggests that they won't.
Appreciate that chat. Again, if you want to throw us a super chat, we will get right to it. Kind of speaking to that game as well. SB earlier said, imagine the Lone Star Showdown having SEC championship consequences multiple years in a row. SB, it definitely could happen. In looking at some of the tie-breaking possibilities, there's a reasonable, if these two teams keep handling business, there's a reasonable assumption that the winner on November 30th will be in Atlanta and the loser won't. And if I just say that to you, those kind of stakes are incredible. Loser would probably still be in the playoff, but those kind of stakes could be on the line. If other teams are involved in possible tiebreakers, it could make it complicated. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the whole point. Not only do you play the game again, but can you make it like some of those Iron Bowls we've watched, some of those Michigan-Ohio State games we watch, where it's not just about rivalry. It's about the rivalry and massive, massive stuff, which back to the NFL, we see that every year, right? Steelers and Ravens late in the season, winner gets the division and maybe a bye week. Loser might be out or loser has to go to wild card weekend or whatever it is. We see all that kind of stuff. Craig with one for both of us. With the elite athleticism we have on defense, why don't we see more blitz packages? It drives me crazy wondering what could be. Catch, you feel like this defense isn't attacking enough?
Not really. It's an elite defense. I don't really nitpick it a whole lot. Could they have more sacks? Yes. Could they blitz more? Yes. I think generally speaking, most defensive coaches would tell you they don't want to have to blitz. If they can get pressure with 4. Like that's what they'd like to do. That means they get to have 7 dropping back, makes it really hard. Usually you're rushing 5 or 6 because you have to, And I think that Texas probably feels like for the majority of the season that it just hasn't needed to. I think they've been right. I think that you second guess the Georgia, although it wasn't, the defense was great against Georgia. Like I really don't, I have a hard time nitpicking the defense. The defense has performed at a level that should have Texas undefeated this season. The offense hasn't. And so I can't, nothing about the defense is driving me crazy. I guess that's how I would say it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It was interesting catch, and I think you missed the Brian Jones interview where he was breaking down that game, and he had more to say on the defense than I thought he would. He was not impressed with Texas defense against Georgia, and I was a little surprised at that. But he didn't like the way they fit a lot of the stuff in the first half. Not just that last drive, but the first half kind of bugged him a little bit, which I was a little surprised at.
Yeah, and my response to that is, with all due respect to Brian, I don't care. They forced what people are saying is an NFL draft prospect at quarterback into the worst game of his career. They were pretty average running the football. They turned the ball over a lot. They didn't have a scoring drive until the fourth quarter that went more than 35 yards. Like, I thought the defense was great. It's like, the 85 Bears are good and all, but they did allow 14 in a game. Stop.
Yeah.
Like, it's
By the way,
totality has to mean more than the getting into the weeds and getting really their run fits weren't good enough. Well, okay. They didn't there weren't any gashes in the run game. So how much do we want to nitpick run fits and things like that if there's no statistical evidence that suggests that it had any kind of real impact on the outcome of the game?
Yeah, I thought they really did keep that game in control. I agree with you. Brad, number 1 in total defense. Google me. Well done, Brad. Nice job. How about this one? $9.99. Thank you for that super chat. Naman. Naman. I've never seen that name.
I think it's got to be Naaman.
Got to be Naaman? Okay. Catch, it baffles me at 6'5", how everyone wanted to change VY's arm angle. And Ewers definitely has a sidearm delivery that leads to all his balls getting deflected. Interesting. I thought on at least one of those tips, Catch, what he needed was not less arm angle, just different, maybe a little bit of a different arm angle.
I think it's in vogue to say that quarterbacks can have awkward arm angles because we're in the age of Patrick Mahomes. So it's an issue. Mechanically, Quinn Ewers at times has sloppy mechanics. And sometimes they work for him, right? Not every time he throws a ball 3/4 or half-armed or side-armed or whatever. Sometimes it works. Sometimes he can throw off the back foot and he'll make a great throw and we'll go, whoa, look at what he can do. And then sometimes he'll throw off his back foot and throw a pick. And, I don't notice that there's a lot of emphasis on that right now. People seem more open-minded. And I'm not saying they're wrong or right. I'm just saying in the age of the Mahomes, I think that there's more of an open-mindedness about how quarterbacks throw the football. Lamar Jackson's a piece of this as well. Lamar he's like a multiple-time MVP in the league, but sometimes when he throws the football, it looks a little unconventional coming out of his arm, but yet it works. So I don't know. I don't even know. It baffles you that they wanted to change VY's arm angle. They gave up on that eventually, and they just let him be VY. I think he's saying that – is he saying that people wanted to change VY's arm angle, so why aren't they trying to make Ewers change his?
I guess he's talking about arm angle in terms of the ball getting deflected. I think there's other things. People are talking about somebody else mentioned a pump fake and stuff like that. There are plays where it just doesn't feel comfortable to me, whatever that is, not stepping up, and maybe it is a pump fake and let a defender go by or whatever. And maybe it's not blocked perfectly well every time. At this point, though, you're probably not messing too much with arm angles. Like, I mean, you're in season now. I don't think there's any way to get into that kind of stuff. We have a couple super chats. One more super chat I see in the list. We will get to that. By the way, Cotton, before we get to anything else, I apologize. It's my bad. Sometimes happens. Get excited. It's Halloween, candy in my system, all that stuff. That's on me. All right. We'll get to that super chat coming right up. Also, let me give you another idea for the off weekend. This is a really, really solid idea. Hey, City Store. We talk about the chicken fried steak. Yep, that's great. How about chicken fried pork chop? Yep, got that too. The incredible dip to start out with. That's the home run dip as we just finished baseball season. The desserts are incredible. The drinks are awesome. They are always getting new things going out there. You can follow them on Facebook at Hayes City Store, and they'll let you know exactly what's going on. They've got live music out there sometimes. And with us headed into November, weather changing a little bit, it's always a good time to be out there. How about a frozen margarita flight? You could do that if you want. 40 draft beers from around Texas and around the country and around the world. They got all kinds of good stuff out there. Hey City Store. It's an off weekend, so maybe your chance to get out there for brunch or for dinner or for a great lunch. Make sure to get your reservation ahead of time. I would advise that because a lot of people know about Hey City Store. Tell them you heard about it on Orange Bloods Live. We would appreciate it. Not a bad idea for an off weekend or any weekend. Get out to Hayes City Store. All right, the super chat I see belongs to Justin. Thank you for that 5-spot, Justin. Say chaos. Oh, I love the chaos people. Penn State beats Ohio State. Duke beats Miami. Florida beats Georgia. Aggies lose. Sorry, Chad. SMU will lose. Their quarterback is out. And SMU's been super sloppy the last couple of games.
Is that just this weekend?
They barely got out. All that could happen. Oh, yeah, that's all this weekend. So he's saying A&M would lose at South Carolina and SMU loses to Pitt. And
okay.
Duke's at Miami, I believe. That would be a road. Yeah,
Duke's just not good enough on offense.
That'd be a home loss for Miami.
That would be of all of those, that would be the most stunning.
That'd be pretty wild. I don't know. Florida beating Georgia. I know it's a rival, but beating Georgia outright, I think it's too many points at 17, but beat them outright?
It's close.
I don't know. They are Flagway now, and but I would love to see it, Justin. It'd be very cool. Penn State, Ohio State. Let's see if Penn State can really. This feels like one of those games where Penn State disappoints. Like this is such an opportunity for them.
But Penn State's another one of these teams that I don't even know what the end of their schedule looks like. But if they lose to Ohio State, win their last 3 games, they're 11-1, and they're in. And I haven't seen Penn State play anybody yet this season.
Yeah, but I guess what we're going to start to find out, though, Catch, back to the discussion about championships, one of the things the college version has that obviously the NFL doesn't, you don't have those championship games. There's no such thing as an NFC East championship game, after the season. So could we see teams, and this feels like it every year, right? We'll watch a championship game for the ACC. If one team wins, you go, well, they may make the playoff. But if that other team wins, no, they're not making the playoff. So this year and moving forward, are we going to see maybe 1 or 2 examples of those where, let's say Penn State finds their way to the Big Ten championship game. But once they're there, if they lose, are they out of the playoff? Like, do they get kicked all the way out? Or
I think that's something we don't know. I mean, the committee will have to, they'll loathe to punish a team for losing on championship Saturday.
But we would agree
at the expense of teams that didn't get into the championship game getting in ahead of them then because of their overall record.
Because my gut tells me that the losers, those four losers, that the SEC and Big Ten loser will probably be in, but that the ACC and Big 12 losers will probably be in trouble.
I think that's right, unless I think you're probably right. By the way, Penn State's schedule, after Ohio State, home against Washington, at Purdue, at Minnesota, home against Maryland. So it feels like they're in, barring something because they could even lose one of those 4 games and still have 2 losses, and that might be. I don't know if their resume is good enough because they've only got 1 quality win against Illinois. I don't know. I really need to see the way the committee shapes the initial group of teams.
Yeah. Oh, God, it's going to be crazy. If you want to throw us a super chat, it will go right to the top of the list. I do not see any right now.
Let's do buy or sell. I have a buy or sell hotter than that. I'm actually I can't wait to ask.
That's exciting. We'll do buy or sell right after you see Lisa and the rabbit. You want to know something terrifying? The rabbit might not just be in College Station. It might be at your front door.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
And let's face it, if there's a rabbit at your front door, it's scarier if he's wearing a tie. I mean, it is. It's just an extra level of terror. If he's well-dressed, there is something that adds to it. All right, Catch. I hear you like your hotter than. It sounds like you want to finish off with it. True?
I want to finish today's show with my hotter than.
Fair enough. All right, let's start out with a big game in November. Buy or sell number 1. By the time we get to November 30th, we'll know that a team will get to Atlanta with 2 conference losses.
Sell.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the case or not.
Not that much chaos, huh? All right, how about this weekend? Buy or sell number 2. If you were Mike Elko, based on the South Carolina matchup, you'd go with Marcel Reed at quarterback.
Sell. I would go with Marcel Reed, but not because of the South Carolina matchup. I actually hate the matchup for both quarterback. South Carolina is really good on defense. I think that I'm a little worried about that Marcel Reed over the course of 60 minutes against South Carolina is not going to produce a lot of points, but I really don't have a lot of faith in Weigman either. I think South Carolina is going to win on Saturday, but if I was Elko, I would go with Reed based on what happened last weekend, not based on what I perceive the matchup against South Carolina to look like.
Catch, you know those great moments in NFL film stuff where they get the slow motion of like a perfect spiral in the air and you're hearing the music, you know, and then the callus is calling. It's just a perfect moment. None of that happens in Columbia, South Carolina this weekend. None. Like pretty balls flying through the air? No. And that game, good news if you're going to watch it, 2 hours and 18 minutes, tops. That's going to be.
I think it's going to be a really good game.
Gonna be quick.
It won't be a quarterback game, is what I'm saying.
No, it will not. You're right about that. All right, Cats, let's go to Halloween. Buy or sell number 3. Kit Kat better than Twix.
Sell. I think I like a good. I have had both in the last 24 hours. Of
course you have. You're a red-blooded American.
There's candy in the house.
Yep. You're selling?
I would say that, I like a little the caramel gets it over the top. So I'll go with Twix over Kit Kat. But you're talking about 2 5-star candies.
I totally agree, and I think you made the right choice. I'm a Twix man myself if I have to fight that battle. Do love a Kit Kat, though. I do love a Kit Kat.
I like the Twix that's been in the freeze, like in the refrigerator.
Ooh, a little bit cold? Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
That's solid. That's solid. Something magical to the caramel. I don't know what that is, but it is magical. All right, Catch. Buy or sell number 4 on the birthdays. Vanilla Ice is 57 today. Many people know he was born in Dallas, but you can tell me the high school he attended. See if this hunk of trivia is in your head.
Oh, man.
I always forget it, but then I'm reminded because I used to work with somebody that my man Trey went to a rival high school or whatever, so he would always remind me of this high school.
Did he go to Richardson?
Ooh, no.
Euless Trinity?
No.
I give up.
R.L. Turner.
Oh.
Yeah.
I almost said L.D. Bell.
that sounds like it would have been better. But yeah, bounce back and forth between Dallas and Miami because of family stuff. But R.L. Turner is the school that he went to. Happy birthday to Rob today. 57 years old. That's incredible. All right, Cats, let's finish with another Halloween. Buy or sell number 5. At a Halloween party, no matter the woman, Catwoman, hotter than Sexy Nurse.
Okay, I just want to. I have a similar. You can't give opinions, okay?
Okay.
Because I have a similar question, but actually not too similar. But I don't want you to give away your thoughts on this because
I have no thoughts.
I have a buy or sell question coming in the same vein.
Okay.
I'm gonna sell. Not no matter what. There's no matter what in this, because if it was Kate Beckinsale versus the neighbor next door, she could do either one of those. And who is in the Catwoman or the sexy nurse costume matters. On the whole, though, on the surface, I would probably say Catwoman, though, hotter than sexy nurse.
Can you imagine real quick being that other woman? Man, I looked so good. And I walked in that party. Do you know who was standing on the other side of the room? Who? Kate Beckinsale. The Kate Beckinsale? Yes. The Kate Beckinsale. All my work was for naught. It was over. It's terrible. All right, Catch, what do you got?
Okay. Buy or sell number 1. Jonte Cook will catch another touchdown pass before the season ends.
Whoo, my goodness. It is such an empty room in the in the Appreciation Society as president of the fan club. The meetings, we got lots of cookies left over. There's a lot of punch over there. My God, but I'm going to buy. I'm going to stay with the idea. You just said 1. That's just 1 before the end of the season. Yes. Come on, Jonte. Let's get going. I'm buying.
Buy or sell number 2. You believe Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty will win the Heisman? It's kind of an Ashton Jeanty versus the field question here.
Yeah, it kind of is. It'd be kind of a cool story, but I will sell. It takes so much for a running back to get that attention all the way through the season. He's at Boise. If Hunter can continue to have a productive season, I think that flash is maybe enough. Colorado's got to stay at a certain record to do that. So I'm going to sell. I'm going to go with the field here and sell. It just feels too tough in 24.
Buy or sell number 3. Lulls at the Yankees.
It's a buy. Look, I'm not vindictive very much. As a sports fan, I try to be pretty balanced. I try to be pretty respectful. But I hate the Yankees. I can't stand them. And I love when bad stuff happens to them. In 01, when everybody else was rooting for the Yankees because of, the 9/11 factor and all that, I was rooting for the Diamondbacks as hard as I could. Shout out Greg Swindell. And I screamed at the TV and I swore at Yankees on the television. And last night, when it was 5-0, I just put the game away, forgot about it, went and did the Outsiders. And on the Outsiders, one of the guys says, the Dodgers just tied it up at 5. And I thought, oh, got a chance. And then when I saw how it fell apart, it was awesome. Bye.
They haven't won anything in 15 years. That's half a generation. And yet there's still enough just built-in born hatred for the Yankees that Chad could enjoy it that much. All right.
Yep.
Buy or sell number 4.
Yes.
The sexiest Halloween costume that a woman can wear is a sexy witch costume.
This is definitely a sell for me. Some guys and ladies might be into more of that supernatural for Halloween. That's not what I'm looking for. The witch vibe does not do it for me. I'm a sexy nurse guy in general. Catwoman can be good. That's why I use those 2 in my buy or sell, but no, I'm not saying there can't be a sexy witch. The right woman and the right cauldron, yeah. The right hat, it can work. That's not the first thing I think of, no.
Okay, fair enough. And finally, buy or sell number 5. I have a Halloween-themed, in their prime, hotter than.
Okay.
And I'm going to have to, I'll say one of the names with the character because you may not recognize the name because I don't know that it's a household name. Okay?
Okay.
Prime on prime, hotter than. Elvira, hotter than Yvonne DiCarlo, who played Lily Munster in the Munsters. So it's Lily Munster against Elvira. In their prime, whatever you think that might be, Elvira hotter than Mrs. Munster.
This is a fantastic. First off, just well done. I mean, well done. This is a spooky brunette battle royal like no other. For me, this is going to be fairly easy, not extremely easy, but fairly easy. I'm an Elvira guy. I'm going to buy. You got the attitude. You got the quirky jokes. Let's face it, you got the bosom. That was fantastic. And I mean, of all the things about Halloween that I can get a little grinchy about, Elvira ain't one of them. I would sit through really bad. In fact, I used to record the really bad movies just to fast forward through the movie so I could watch her in the little segments in the commercials. So I've never seen The House That Bled to Death, but I've seen her talking about The House That Bled to Death. I'm going with Elvira. It's a buy. What would you do? Oh, he's going Lily Munster. Wow. That's excellent. And you came with photoshopped evidence. Good job. Nice work. I don't know if Lily farmed out the body double there or if that's her, but I like that evidence.
I just did a Yvonne DiCarlo sexy Google search.
Dude, if that's legit, you go, Lily.
She's stunningly beautiful. Like,
that's nice.
If you go back and look at some younger Mrs. Munster photos.
Okay.
Daddy likey. Like.
You know what? And you know what, Catch? That is so attractive. It makes this face happen right there. Like when that walks in the room, this just goes catatonic and has no idea what to do.
I think he'd be the first one to tell you that.
He would. Yes, he would. He would not know what to do in that Bevo outfit. That is fantastic work. Fantastic work. We did end up with, let's see. There's one. Okay, here we go. Look at this. You got to know somebody's jumping in. Justin, $5 super chat. Hotter than WWE Divas, Trish Stratus, or Stacy Keibler swimsuit edition.
Look,
okay,
Justin, it's never going to change.
Yeah.
You need to put someone other than Keibler into the sentence, or you're going to get a Stacy Keibler answer.
Although I will give Justin credit for this. I agree with Catch, but I agree. I give you this credit. When you put Trish in it and you make it a swimsuit edition, that's a man's game. If you'd have put Sable in it and you made it a swimsuit edition, that's a man's game. In fact, if you'd said Trish or Sable swimsuit edition, I think it might be a little more of a battle in my mind than this one because I'm with Catch. Stacy Keibler wins that one.
Look, man, I love Trish Stratus.
Oh, yeah.
I love her. I love Trish Stratus. You're just putting her in, it's like Raquel Welch. There's just a few women that have lived on the earth that I just feel like they're 11s on a 1 to 10.
Yeah.
And Keibler in her prime is just unassailable. So, Trish, if you're watching, I want you to know I love you. But it's Keebs. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's a hell of a battle. Justin, thank you for that $5 super chat.
Because I think I would pick Trish almost every. We could do one of those like where you're just naming people and it's like a constant battle until you get to the end. I might pick Trish in the rest of the way through. So if you leave Keebs out, she might finish on top. But he put Keebs in, and my default is definitely Stacy Keibler.
I love when the show basically, some would say devolves. I would say evolves into a hotter than section, especially if it's a wrestling hotter than section. So we will certainly take some of those towards the end of the show if you would like to do it. In fact, I will pay one more final bill and give you the opportunity if you'd like to throw us another wrestling hotter than or Mount Rushmore or whatever it is, or candy for whatever you want to do. If you have a super chat for us, we will definitely take that. Let me just remind everybody one more time about AV consultations. And Ketch just gave me a perfect segue. He was just talking about the Munsters He was talking about Elvira. Hey, Halloween, the movies, all the scary stuff. It's not my thing, but if it is your thing, you want it in beautiful HD. You want all the blood and all the guts and all the gore and all the Jason and the Freddy and the screaming and the hollering and the Saw and Hostel and all that stuff you love. You want to be able to feel it. You want to be able to see the blood flying across the room in beautiful HD. Do you need a bigger screen, a better screen, or both? More screens? Ketch was talking about doing the four box with YouTube TV. You know when that sucks? When your initial television's not big enough. AV Consultations can make sure you have that big TV you've always wanted. 255-8678. They've been doing this since 1988, so they can handle anything. Remember, let them buy that TV. Let them handle all the details. You will not be disappointed. 255-8678 or avconsultations.com. It is AV Consultations. All right.
Hey, real quick.
Yes.
2 thoughts. We lost our Michaela ad.
The Michaela ad is now done because baseball is done. I was instructed that it only lived as long as baseball lived. Way to go, Yankees.
Nice job, Yankees.
Jesus, Aaron. All rise, huh?
You don't know the stakes of these things sometimes until they're over. The other thing I was going to say, I didn't stick up for my girl, Yvonne DiCarlo. Chad saw the image that I put up on the screen and immediately concocted an idea and said it out loud. Photoshop.
I did. That was my first gut.
What I want to let you know is that you can go to Amazon.com, eBay, and to other places, and you can buy that photo. It's legit.
So you're telling me somewhere along the line, here's the thing though. I'm not denying that Yvonne DiCarlo, that's her name, right? I'm not denying that Yvonne might have had like that body, but that she took that picture somewhere along the line?
It's a poster that you can buy on Amazon.com right now.
That's crazy. I never knew it existed. I never knew that was a thing. That's wild.
You can buy that on Amazon.com right now. 16 by 24, $49.90.
No wonder Herman Munster had that stupid smile on his face.
For real.
Good for you, Herman. The bolts in the neck.
Real.
That'll make the bolts in the neck tingle right there. Well done, sir.
I'm saying an all-time underrated hottie.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if it's still there. Did you know there was like a full redo of the Munster house in Waxahachie for years?
No.
For real. Like somebody flipped out about the Munsters and they had like a museum and the whole redone house in my hometown.
Sorry, distracted.
You're just looking at Lily Munster. I get it.
I am.
It's an incredible picture. And I am sorry. I don't mean to besmirch.
You did, and I had to defend her honor.
I apologize. My gut told me something. If that's her, God love you, Lily Munster. I still think I'd take Elvira in the hotter then.
No way, man. No way. But the thing about Elvira was that like Elvira's for a certain type of guy.
Exactly. You know how I grew up. I grew up listening to a whole bunch of heavy metal and I had a mullet at one point and I was a little more country. I'm going to be a little more Elvira.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Hey, I get it.
Just, I'm telling you, they would come back from those breaks. She'd be looking like that and they'd give her this great, like kind of corny, but kind of sexy line to deliver. And it got me every time. You got to understand, I'm 10 or 11 at the time. And catch, when we fall in love at that age, we fall in love.
Can I make a confession though? I am so disgusted that you were watching Elvira movies, but not anything else.
Oh, no. Yeah. It was just
I can't get you to see like It's a Wonderful Life, but if Elvira had been in it.
That's actually true. If you can go back, if you can get me a version where Elvira just intros like they do on TBS now, I would watch that.
It's a Wonderful Elvira Life. And like you're in.
Because she had a great line about jumping off bridges and it would have been awesome.
Anyway, I'm done. I'm legitimately just done now.
All right, that is going to do it for a Halloween edition. Everybody be safe on Halloween tonight. Kids, have a great time. Adults, be looking for those kids when you're driving around the neighborhoods. There's a lot of them out there, and you want to make sure you are as careful as you can be. Enjoy the candy, drink safely and get home safely and all that good stuff. Everybody have a great Halloween. We'll be back tomorrow for a Friday edition. Until tomorrow at noon, we are house divided. One more scary image. Ooh, they may not make the play.
I'm going to cover you up with Yvonne DiCarlo.
Yeah, please do. Actually, let's do that. Put that image up as the last thing. I'll wait. I will wait.
I might have deleted it.
What? You got rid of it? No.
I didn't want to leave it in.
We'll just do this. This will be the last image. Happy Halloween from House Divided and old number 60. See ya.